Hey everyone, welcome to Productive Creators Podcast, where my co host Matt and I review interesting YouTube channels that have a lot of potential. And we take a deep dive into their channels. We have a look top down, what works for them, what can be improved from a strategical and tactical standpoint, so they can implement those recommendations on their channel. And so you can learn from their mistakes and apply it to your channel as well. And if you'd like us to review one of your channels, make sure to comment your channel in the comment section and we will review it and add it to our ever-growing list of channels that we will review on one of our next episodes. In case you're here for the first time, I'm Pat Gostek, founder of the YouTube marketing agency Clip Growth, and I have a ton of experience doing channel reviews just like this one. It's my bread and butter, and that's what I do for a living. And over to you, Matt.
Hey everyone, my name is Matt, and I'm here today with Pat on the Productive Creative Podcast. If you guys are interested in learning how you can make it on YouTube, what is the kind of format that works, we're here to help and analyze through the number of channels that we're reviewing every single week. I'm myself joining Pat as a past consultant. We have worked together in the past, and now we're working together to bring this kind of analysis to you. In my full-time job, I work as a business developer for a company called Supersite, where I help prospects and people trying to navigate their creative production from branding to video. If you're interested in learning more, tune into all our episodes and check out our other content.
All right, let's get started. So we have Ben Greenfield Life. This is a channel that covers health issues, biohacking, optimizing sleep, and so on and so forth. And we will have a look at it top down. Is there anything particular, because we did already have a little bit of a look at the channel, about this channel that you saw that you would instantly improve, or what do you find interesting on this channel and what could be improved?
Maybe it's just my PTSD with all the health and biohacking channels, but I often have the same feeling that it is a similar content. So I have a hard time, for example, navigating this or differentiating between like, what is the difference between this channel and like Luke's story, for example. So on an immediate impression, I don't really know what is the difference, which I think is okay. I would say probably these channels are still mostly discovered through browse or suggested videos, or playlists potentially, right? Because they very much fall in line with other content. What stands out for me is that even though to me the titles and the thumbnails are somewhat lackluster in terms of quality, I think it could be improved heavily. Is that the views on the videos are actually pretty solid. And I took a look what goes on in the video. And I would say that just based on this, I think Ben has a loyal following already. That's one of the reasons that he's raking in steady like 1,000, 2,000 views, even in videos where I would say, or like just on the first impression, the average view percentage would be normally low. Because as we've talked about it in the past, the videos don't have that kind of hook bait structure, but rather it's much more linear in telling a story. So that was the first impression. What comes to mind to you when you're looking at something like this?
So first of all, I mean, I need to judge the book by its cover. How do the thumbnails look like? How does the overall channel look like? The way how people will discover channels like this is definitely through thumbnails, through browse, potentially through search. It's a topic that if I'm doing research about healing my gut, I might be typing something in. But I would say for podcasts, it's a classic browser search suggested traffic source. For that, it means that most of the viewers on this channel, if they see a thumbnail, they will see a thumbnail for the first time. They will see Ben Greenfield for the first time. On what you already mentioned, the thumbnails. So he has a following. So this is why people are listening to him, and like 2K views on average shows that viewers are tuning in. But I will get to this link the gut. It blends in with a lot of the content that already exists on YouTube, right? So meaning that in terms of changing the title or the thumbnail, it needs to be it needs to address a specific issue with the gut. So it might be, you know, healthy food for healing gut. Like it needs to be a little bit more specific for me to click on the video when I see it on my home feed on YouTube, right? And then there's obviously another thing, which is the production of the video itself. So what I saw on the channel is that, you know, in a lot of the videos, he is running, like even like running with the guests, which explains a little bit like how a loyal following is tuning in into that type of content. But I think in a for me as someone who wants to even watch someone talk with each other, it's a little bit I might get seasick from like just watching them move. And I get where they're coming from. I get that they're a health channel and they want to like biohack optimize every minute and aspect of their lives. But it is a little bit hard to watch if I'm being honest with you. I'm not sure like what your opinion is on that.
Same on the walking stuff. To me, this constant swaying, like I could imagine people, just turning an episode on and just, I don't know, doing the dishes or something else, cooking, and then just listening, because then obviously it's not going to be disruptive. But if you're trying to like look at it, it's super visually confusing to me to look at it. I would probably get rid of it and just sit down. Also, because the podcast format shouldn't be that dynamic or like by nature, it's in a 3-minute video, which I don't know, Mr. Beast is super hyping up like the marathon and he's doing like a run in that. I'm like, okay, I understand the dynamism. In terms of podcast for like an hour and 18 minutes or so, I have a very hard time just, tuning into that, because I understand his position, but this may not be the part where you need to optimize things. So again, I think this is one of the challenges where this podcast could be mostly optimized for audio. When you're listening to this on Spotify, you don't see anybody walking, but on YouTube, it doesn't really translate.
Yeah.
So I would balance it out, just like, what's the goal here? And if the goal is to get more views on YouTube, probably this is among the factors that would turn people away. Not 100%. This is not the reason people turn away, but one of the reasons could be it's just like, I don't know, a bit visually confusing.
Yeah, and I 100% agree with you. And a lot of it potentially has to do with it being an audio podcast first. So, coming from the audio world, if I assume, and it's just an assumption, he started off like with an audio podcast version first, and then you can be on a treadmill, you can run, you can be on a Peloton bike, whatever you like during an interview when you put it out as on Spotify as an audio version. However, for YouTube, we need to really make it YouTube specific in order to make it work for YouTube, because it's great content. Like I've listened to the conversations on this channel. I've watched like a couple of videos, and those conversations are really in thorough, very interesting, very informative. But it could be improved like for YouTube specifically. When it comes to YouTube thumbnails, what are some things that you would improve looking at the thumbnails?
I have a big tip here, which is maybe very niche, but I think important, is that I would either just keep the cap or no cap, because I think Ben has a recognizable face and probably his followers know his face. And to me, the cap actually takes away from it somewhat. Like if you look at his cover image, for example,
Yeah.
with his hair and his facial features are like very apparent, but like with a cap, they sort of get toned down a little. Not sure if it's intentional from his behalf, but I would, make it either go away or make it consistent across the thumbnails. And overall, just make the faces bigger. So, and especially like depending on like who the guests are. So I'm not sure, like, so I think he has like Justin Owens. I personally don't know Justin Owens, but if I'm a follower of Ben, I would probably rather recognize his face. So I would just go with his face instead of just this kind of, dual overlay of like both faces. I don't know who is going to, if I'm seeing it for the first time, I don't know who I need to look at. Like who is the guest and who is the host. So yeah, I would, yeah,
Got
centralize
it.
this more around the persona.
Got it. Generally, like I would also add a little bit of variety here. So I would potentially add like mix in different images, like especially if he gets a lot of views from his loyal followers, then like it just blends in. Like they might see, okay, it's another video, it's another video. They might not even recognize what's the difference, just looking at the image first, right? So I would add variety in terms of like creatives. I mean, he has a video here where the image is different, right? But I would deliberately, if I would work with this channel, I would test out different creatives to see which performs best, and then decide which to go. And obviously, keeping a little bit of a variety overall, just to spice things up a little bit.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. In terms of what's on the thumbnail, again, this is not like the thumbnail is not the place to brand. So if we have the name, it's a little bit too small, especially for mobile devices. You can see the name, but it's like really small. But if we zoom in and see like Boundless Life podcast, for me, it's important like what is the video or what is the content of the podcast, right? And if I click on the video, then I need to get hooked into the episode and by having an interesting intro. So he introduces, for example, the future of anti-aging in the intro. And then he can talk about, hey, welcome to this podcast where we discuss this and this. So this is the place where he can potentially like advertise his own channel, but not on the thumbnail itself.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, we can take a look at like one of the videos and just like look at like the how the video is structured a little.
Okay.
Because I did check it out, like optimize your sleep, for example. And
Mm.
here again, like the intro for me was a bit lengthy. I do think that if Ben is posting this, the people who don't know him will click away potentially in the first 30 seconds to a minute. So he's losing potentially a lot of views because of that.
Yeah, I did also watch this episode. Like, he starts here talking not to the camera, so I think that's another thing. It's clear that it's with the audio podcast in mind. He has like different clips from all kinds of episodes from the past, right? And in my opinion, the intro, especially the intro, should be like straight to the camera, explaining the topic, what will be talked about, and make it YouTube specific. Again, not just like read from a script. And once you have the intro, you can like add those clips if they make sense in terms of the content itself.
Yeah. One thing that I would like just point out from an audio engineering perspective is that maybe it's just this video. I don't know like all of his videos, but here it's interesting that he seems to have a very robust setup with like the noise filter in front of the microphone, for example. Yet the audio doesn't sound too crispy. I would potentially use, I think they either overdo the audio engineering in post or don't do any audio engineering, even with a few AI features. Like they don't really isolate his vocals and they don't really clear up the noise. So to me, the audio, if this is an audio podcast, could be crispier, especially with this setup. So I think it's just really either a setup problem, like they're not using the preset audio settings properly, or they just don't do anything in post, which I think could elevate it, especially in this format. So I would potentially check what's going on with the audio.
Yeah, I agree. I do hear a little bit of a noise.
Yeah, it's like this kind of crackling.
Yeah, it just shows that the audio is a little bit too over saturated. Like the settings are too high
Yeah,
in terms of
everything gets through basically.
capturing the voice. Yeah, but yeah, maybe. I mean, that's a technical thing that can easily be resolved with just the right settings.
So one thing that pops out, I think, with these kind of channels, and it was the same with the last batch we analyzed, was that if you go to the most popular videos, they are videos from like 7, 8 years ago. It's just crazy. It shows that these guys were very early on YouTube. I love the how to triple your testosterone production with red light. Looks like like a crazy crypto bro thumbnail, like,
Yeah.
in today's context. And it shows that these channels performed rather well with
Okay.
very old school but SEO optimized content, like how to take a cold shower. Probably a lot of people are still searching for that, and that video is raking in some views still today. And I think like the more polished some of these channels become, because it's like sort of a branding trend or something, they sort of fall out of line with their roots to a degree, right? Or potentially the algorithm garnered a lot of views using these videos. It led to a lot of subscribers. And then you're launching like a separate like biohacking podcast onto the channel. And the algorithm doesn't really know how to figure out like what your channel is about right now. You either will lose the old video views because you lose the audience or something, or you don't necessarily get new viewers outside that. So I think it's very tricky. I would have rather started a new channel, to be fair. Not sure when he started posting the podcast or this kind of biohacking and like strictly brand motivated content. Really, it's like the very commercial way of him
Yeah.
selling things right now.
I mean, if we take a look like historically, what kind of like videos were published on this channel, you can see 16 years ago, metabolic resistance training. He got like 26,000 views. I mean, over a period of 16 years, right? So it's clear that like some of the subscribers, like if I subscribed to this channel 16 years ago, or like even 10 years ago, or even 5 years ago, the audience matured, meaning that they moved on in their lives. They may be following someone else. They also maybe are not even like particularly interested in that topic anymore, or maybe there are new people who are interested in this topic. So what I would do is potentially have a look at historic data, like what worked well, despite having not well optimized thumbnails, despite having not well optimized quality of the video. If you look at this, it looks like with an obviously like 16 years ago, cameras were way different. Like you have everything you need in your pocket, right, with an iPhone. But I would revisit potentially creating some of those like SEO optimized videos, or like videos that get a lot of views from SEO. And then in terms of the podcast itself, again, I don't necessarily think that like having the podcast is bad. I think it needs to be YouTube specific, again, with you know, previewing the episode, having a little bit of text on screen in the first couple of seconds, a little bit of some like special effects, like B-roll, for example, could be something that you could use to make it a little bit more YouTube specific. And once you hook them, it takes like 30 seconds to hook them really. And once they kind of like, oh, this is the content that I'm interested in, let's watch the full episode. For example, like optimize your sleep. This could be way better. Like it says like top sleep tips to fall asleep faster and optimize your sleep. Like the title itself, like 70% of the clicks will happen because of the thumbnail. And if I see optimize your sleep, it's not really enticing. So I would instead do fall asleep faster. Like for example, this is the clear outcome of the video, and I will potentially use that in the thumbnail to make it more attractive to the potential viewer. And again, the audience grew organically, 118,000 subscribers, and like 2K subscribers, or 2K of the current audience are tuning in. And yeah, in order for us to grow the channels, to break kind of like the plateau of like the 2,000 views per episode, we need to have a strategy of like in which direction we want to go with the content. Mixing in some SEO type videos would definitely benefit the channel.
Yeah, 100%. So one thing that I cooked up on the side while we are having the conversation, obviously everybody's talking about ChatGPT and how it's going to kill the designer job. I mean, to a degree, it is intimidating. I just put in like one of Ben's video thumbnails. Like I took a screenshot. So this is not the
Curious to see.
original, it's everything. Yeah. So, and I gave it like a very basic prompt. I didn't over engineer it or anything. And just with that, this as a result, obviously the facial, if I were to have like the full image that, Ben and the team used, this would be pixel perfect, I would say.
Oh, wow.
And if I want to, I can take away from the text, but it's crazy that, this took me like 2 seconds literally. And then I had to wait for the thumbnail to load. And I'll show you like with the next channel as well, what it did. But just, it is able to recognize all the aspects of a thumbnail that could work. If I want to, I could put like a white outline behind Ben to even make him pop a bit more. But, in comparison to like where we started off from,
I mean,
to where this got, it's crazy to me.
this is a game changer, and anyone who's running a channel, who's creating content, can use that. This is, at least like 50% better in terms of like the overall popping of the image. Do you think like this will put designers out of job?
I mean, yeah, potentially the mediocre ones. I mean, I'm not saying I am not a designer, but I can do something like this myself. So I don't, for example, pay anyone to do my thumbnails. But yeah, definitely, it's going to reduce the amount of designers that are needed overall, I think. I just don't see like what other outcome is, or potentially just really increase the quality of what's going to be available. But I mean, I'm not sure like if there is a more optimized thumbnail available for YouTube like this, right? It contains every information I need. I know this person. I want to get better sleep, and I will want to see what I can do before bed to get that better sleep, right?
Yeah, I think you still need a human in terms of a human expert in the field of YouTube to judge if the thumbnail will perform well based off previous experiences. But I think it's a game changer generally. But I think anyone who's embracing AI, will get faster in creating designs, will get like better at creating drafts, creating like first versions of it. And then the designers who will make use of AI will definitely survive, and not only survive but maybe even build a thriving business, because now instead of having one client or two clients or three clients at the same time, you can have way more clients. Embracing it will make you even a better designer, I think. All right, guys. So our last recording got cut off right here. We wanted to end this episode. Matt, is there anything you wanted to say before we end the episode?
Not much, but just like I think to wrap it up and to summarize, I think that from now on, it is not going to be a viable excuse for like having bad thumbnails, bad packaging for the videos, because as we showed, the kind of capabilities you can have with ChatGPT or with any other tools really you're using, you can really make that polished look. And obviously, we're not entirely sure how it's going to impact the mass CTR. It's going to get more, right? But still, you will have a better chance of getting clicked, getting views, and getting eyes to your content. So anybody who's not using these tools just yet, but we would like to, feel free to get started or reach out to us in order to set them up and to see what we can do with them.
Definitely. All right. So if you would like us to review one of your channels, or like if you have one channel, then make sure to leave us your channel link in the comments. And if you have any other YouTube related questions, make sure to ask them as well. It was a pleasure. Have a good day, everyone, and see you next time.